Well, hello dollhouse people and other miniaturists out there. This week I'm going to be adding to the back side of the dollhouse near the labyrinth garden, and I'm going to be doing a rustic shed in this area here. I'm wanting it to be very open and actually have the feeling of maybe it's been there for a really long time, maybe several generations have used it. You know, it's a little rusty, it's a little old, but it's still in good enough shape to use and do projects in. I'm gonna have it built around the stone fireplace here, and I'm gonna have it going up this wall as well. And so I'm thinking that 10 inches will be a sufficient enough height to be able to have an area where, you know, garage type projects are being done, but then have maybe a little bit of an upstairs area that would be like an attic space to, you know, store old stuff in. And then I'm not going to do a flooring. It's just going to be a free floating shed because this area here I had painted gray a million years ago. And of course I've been using it as an area to do projects for other parts of the dollhouse. So it actually already kind of has the look of a garage or a shed. Here's a couple pieces that I'm going to be using in this space. I have this kind of dry sink cabinet here that I think would work. I have this just plain wooden shelf as well that I'm going to incorporate into the shed. And basically I'm just placing them here because I really want to make sure that I have the space for these items. That door, of course, needs a little adjusting. And also I'm going to be using this potting bench here that I had put a sink on a long time ago, but I'm going to remove that sink and faucet set. So I think those are the three furniture pieces that I'm going to have in the shed. And so what I want to do now is measure out some foam board. And I'm just going to have 3 pieces of foam board are going to be like my main walls. I'm going to have these 2 pieces on this side, and then I'm just going to have a much smaller, thinner piece on the other side of the stone fireplace there that will allow everything to be held together and give it a little bit of stabilization. All right, and I'm just going to put the pieces back to make sure that I definitely have the space for them and that everything is going to be able to fit together. I definitely don't want to put it together and then find out that I don't have the room, so we're just going to double check my measurements really quickly here. And I'm not worried about the foam piece for the other side quite yet. The other thing is that I don't want it to be really dark. So I'm going to put a window above this potting bench right here because I think that it will not only add light, but I think it would be fun that the person could see into the labyrinth garden. Okay, and now you can see where that other little foam board is on the other side of the stone fireplace. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make some measurements here because I need to have a brace to go around the entire top side of the wall because I want to add wood elements to the front, and then I also want to create little slats at the top to hold like attic type stuff. So I'm going to need a brace to go around, or an edging to go around the entire area to hold that in place. So there's my trim that's also going to act as almost like a little shelf for the slats to sit across. The way you kind of think of it is almost like the way maybe you make a bed. So I'm going to have those pieces there, and you can see I've put in the trim there, and then I'm going to have some more wood trim coming out. I'm going to have it coming down as well to brace. I'll probably have to put 2 bottom posts in order to brace this whole thing so it'll stay together. So these are just actually wood trim pieces, leftover pieces from other projects. So you can see I just glued them in place, and I'm actually going to add 1 more just for an additional support across that longer front area. All right, and I do want to start adding the slats going across the top there, and I need to have enough where it's added support for the whole piece itself, but I also want them to be close enough together that I can lay stuff on the top of it as though it almost gives it that upper storage feel, like inside a garage, or in this case, a makeshift shed. Okay, now that everything is glued down and in place, I'm going to start painting it. So, and FYI, I used wood glue and also a little bit of Elmer's glue to glue that shed together. I really wanted a dark gray, but I don't have a dark gray right now, so I just mixed a light gray and some black together. And I'm just going to paint all of the white foam board gray in this dark gray. And my vision here is to make this part of it look like old wood slats that have been put together to build this shed. I've got my gray on here, and then once that's dry, I am going to take some brown, just regular brown, and then my light gray color again. And I'm gonna take a thick brush that almost is the exact width of what I would think like a wooden slat would be at a 1/12 scale. And I'm just gonna start from the top and just do long brush strokes down in a row. I don't want these to be wiggly at all. I don't want them to overlap at all, because this is what I'm gonna make look like wood boards being used to have, built this shed many years ago. It's kind of hard to see, it's a little dark. So let me go to the outside real quick and show you here. So just long brush strokes. You don't always have to start at the top. You can start at the bottom as well, just as long as you're staying within the same width and just going up and down. And you want some of that gray to poke through as well, because you want it to have like an old wood look. Okay, so you can see my brush strokes in it. Those are gonna start to look like wood grain. And once it's all dry, I'm gonna do the same thing with the light gray, just dry brushing it on and doing the strokes going in the same direction. I'm not doing as much gray as I did brown, but you can definitely see the gray. Some areas you want a little bit more gray than others, and that's okay. That's what you want. You want to make it look as natural as possible. So I'm going to do the whole thing that way, and then this is what it looks like, okay, when it's nice and dry. Before you move on to the next step, you definitely want this to be completely dry. Okay, so what I did was I just took my ruler, and I'm going to grab my Sharpie here, and I'm going to use my Sharpie to make pretty straight lines. The wood slats themselves, they don't have to be even. You can have some that are thin, some that are thicker. You just go with whatever you feel like you want the look to be. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw in little knots into the wood. And the way that you do that is almost like you're going to draw an eye. First, I draw a little dark football shape in the center, and then I just draw a couple lines outlining that on the outside. And you can see there that they kind of start looking like little knots in wood. You can do a couple of those in every slat. Then I am just going to brush in a few little black lines here and there to kind of give it a little bit of definition. So here's another knot. Now this knot you can also do if you don't want to do an eye shape. You can also draw like a little @ sign and then do the same kind of markings around it, and that'll also give you the look of a little knot in some wood. And then the other thing that I do is I took my black marker and I just scribbled a little bit at the bottom to almost look like maybe there are some rotting areas of wood, had rotted away over time. Same with the top, and I just did that all the way around the entire shed. All right, now I'm going to take some trim and I'm just going to trim out the edges to kind of clean it up, as well as I didn't really show it very much, but I did a trim on the outside of the window, on the outside of the shed. I have something different that I want to use on the inside. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and stain the wood, but I'm just going to do a paint wash stain. So I'm just taking some regular brown and a little dark red and a whole lot of water, and I'm just mixing it all together, and then I'm just going to stain this whole shed like this reddish brown color here, and I'm going to do all of the wood that color. All right, and I also painted the interior shelf that I'm going to use, and then I found a free floating shelf as well, and I went ahead and stained that. I don't know if I'm going to use it, but just in case, I thought it'd be nice and ready to go. So the shed is now pretty much built. There's a few other details that we definitely need to add. And by the way, I did want that wood to look old, so I just did one coat. And then I did some areas where I did a little bit darker so that it would kind of look like maybe some areas had fading. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and glue in my interior shelf. I just used tacky glue for that because I'm just gluing it up against paper foam, so that'll work just fine. I also found these little like corbels, and they're kind of Victorian looking. So I thought I'd go ahead and add a little decorative element to the shed Again, almost like maybe generations ago, maybe someone hung them to kind of make it look a little bit better. For me, I'm adding them also to give it a little bit more support, and I'm not going to stain them. I'm going to have them kind of two different color woods so they'll stand out. And then I found this composite piece here. It's actually a smaller scale fireplace, trim and mantle, I should say, but I think that it would make a really good window trim. So I'm going to go ahead and hang it inside there. I want to do a tin roof on this dollhouse. I want to give it the look of a tin roof. So I grabbed this cardboard box remnant, a cardboard flap remnant, and I'm going to pull back the paper and I'm going to use the inside of it as a tin roof. Alright, and then I'm going to need to cut it down to size, but that's going to give me kind of the look that I'm wanting for this piece. And I need to cut the back out a little bit so that it can wrap itself around the back side of that fireplace, that stone fireplace there. So it fits nice and snug, and I'm going to have to add a few wood pieces too, just to have interior support for the roof. And then I found this other piece as well, and I want to add a little bit of light. I'm going to do a little bit of a skylight here. So I cut that section out, and I chose that spot obviously because it's going to be right over the area where the project table is inside. And I want the top to have that filling, that old filling of a rusty metal tin roof. So I'm going to go ahead and paint it this silver color here. And then of course you guys knew eventually I was going to use my cinnamon rust again, because I just loved the way my other project turned out so much. So I'm going to just go in sections because I need to add the cinnamon on top of wet paint so it will do really well. So I'm just taking my cinnamon, I'm going to dust over the wet paint, shaking off the excess, and then you just blot now over with more of the silver paint. All right, and that'll help it stay on and kind of seal it in. You can, if you want to, do a clear coat sealer after, that's fine. Here is just a piece of trash plastic here, and I'm gonna use it as the window and the skylight. I don't wanna put the roof on until it's completely dry, because once the paint goes on, it will make it a little heavy and a little wet, and the cardboard will wanna sag a little bit more than when it's fully dry. So we'll set that aside. I'm gonna move on to my planting stand that I had made, and I'm just going to remove the sink and the faucet and the water knobs and stuff like that off the top. And it leaves some marks and stuff, but honestly it's perfect because it just looks like it's been used, and I didn't repaint it or anything at all. That was the green that I painted it a long time ago. So now I have this old surfboard, and I'm going to add some string, and I'm going to go ahead and tie it to the top of the shed. And the reason I'm doing that right now is because once everything's kind of in place, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to get to, so I'm just going to leave it be. And really the shed is ready to completely accessorize, and so let's do it. All right, so there it is, ladies and gentlemen, it's all done. Now, one of the things you notice, I did not glue my roof down because I wanted to be able to remove it to add or subtract accessories, in the future if I want to add more stuff. Just when you think you can't add more stuff, guess what? You absolutely can add more stuff. So the other funny thing is that when my husband came home, the first thing that he mentioned to me is like a roof that leans up against the house should not be flat. And the reason is because when it rains, you don't want water to be able to run toward the house. And that really makes sense. And I'm not really a builder, so I didn't think about that. But I actually can angle the roof because I didn't adhere it to the top. I can angle the roof, or I could cut the sides at an angle if I wanted to and kind of alter that roof to hang down. So for your own sake, keep that in mind if that's something that you want. Hopefully in dollhouse land, this won't ever get rained on. Just keep that in mind for those of you who are really super into the details of being realistic. I completely understand that. And so just remember that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being here with me again. I hope that you enjoyed the look of this shed. I think it's super fun with all these really great accessories. I really did enjoy making it. Being that it's out of foam, it didn't take me long to do. Of course, I had to make it where it's removable from the base, so I did not adhere it to the board because I want to be able to move it, of course, like I've said in other videos, in case I ever have to move this thing. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Definitely give me a thumbs up if you liked this video, if you enjoyed this video, and if you haven't already subscribed, go ahead and do so. I really appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. I hope I've inspired you to get back to your own dollhouse projects. Have a wonderful week, and I'll see you next time. Bye.